Welcome back, everyone. So, it's so funny that this topic came up this week because I've just finished talking about exactly this topic with my students. Basically, the article starts off with a comment on how older people always, throughout history, have been looking at younger people as lazy, useless, directionless, people who don't want to do a hard day's work. Even way back in history, 2,000 years ago, you can find graffiti on the Colosseum, I think, of somebody complaining about kids today. So then it focuses in on a specific example of that on social media. Which platform? Maybe Instagram,
let's call it TikTok or something.
Probably TikTok.
Yeah.
Where
Close enough.
a young person who happens to be a music student, studying very hard to become a musician, really hoping to do that as her full-time job and support herself in the future. But she was also saying how she really couldn't even imagine the idea of doing the typical 9-to-5 desk job, a kind of mundane, routine, ordinary type of job that she was just doing to pay the bills. And of course, many older people perhaps took issue with this. Oh, a typical example of the entitled snowflake generation, doesn't want to work, lazy, blah, blah, blah. But perhaps the older people didn't realize that that was what their parents said about them when they were young, and their grandparents said about their parents, and so on back through history. Yes, we have this perhaps perpetual cycle of older people criticizing younger people for being lazy, but perhaps that is just something that we come across as when we're young, and then we grow up and we get normal jobs and power the economy in the same way that we've always done. So yes, perhaps it is a perception problem rather than a real issue.
Perception problem.
Anyway, and I was just doing King Lear with my students in book discussion, and this exact same, the play, which is 500 years old, is about exactly the same thing. It's about a father complaining about his daughters being useless and disrespectful and not showing daddy the proper work ethic, etc., etc. So yes,
it's
even
like I've
Shakespeare.
heard that yesterday.
Yeah. Even Shakespeare noticed this trend. Anyway, so I'm sure you've heard this as well. We call it kids today mentality. So let's get into some wider discussion about this issue. How about you, John?
Okay.
Do people around you often complain about kids today? And how do they complain?
Yes, they do. They do complain. I've heard it a lot. Laziness is not the common one I hear.
Okay.
Selfishness.
Oh.
This whole complaint for this generation is, the next generation's so selfish. They only think about themselves. They're only blah, 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 blah. And obviously there's some truth to that. There's things that you could say are a bit more selfish than what we would expect from our generation. However, in the end, when they grow up, it's not going to be considered selfishness anymore. It's going to be considered normal. Progress is hard. Progress is hard to accept and it's hard to do, but it needs to happen, and so we have to accept it as it is. And maybe that selfishness should have come earlier. Maybe there's some selfishness, especially with work-life balance, that should have been coming generations before now, and finally it's arriving. Just because we had to be tortured doesn't mean we have to let anyone else be tortured.
Well, that is another issue. Yeah, just because you got bullied at school doesn't mean you have to bully others. Yes.
Yeah.
What do they call it these days? Break the generational trauma.
Oh, yes.
So I hear the online psychology.
I feel like Gen Alpha is going to break that generational trauma.
Oh, I hope so.
Gen Z is just a reaction. I know I made controversial terms or sentences.
I'm so old I don't even know. Gen Z versus Gen Alpha, who are they? I don't know. Anyway, the little ones.
The tweens.
So we just discussed how you almost work a 9-to-5, slightly more than.
Yeah.
But do you think doing a 9-to-5 job is tough? Why or why not?
I really agree with the article. It depends on what job you're doing. You could be doing a 9 to 10 job that you hate so much that 1 hour makes you tired for the whole week, right? And you could also be doing a job for 12 hours at a time. Like this girl in the article, she's working a lot more than a 9 to 5, but she likes doing it. She loves doing it, and therefore it's a little bit easy for her to work those longer hours and work harder. And I think the same thing, you know. There are times where my job can be tiresome, and so it can be a little bit harder, and times where it's a joy.
Yes. I mean, people don't say that do what you love for no reason.
Yeah.
They say that because they know you'll be able to work 10 times harder at it and feel way less pressure than if it's something you hate. It's sad that we can't all do that in the end.
Correct.
But, let's try. Why not try?
At least love what you do rather than do what you love.
Yes.
If you can't do what you love what you do.
Yes.
Right?
And we know what you love doing. It's
Yep.
the vocabulary section. Yes.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
remember, you are an English rock star, and you are going to learn English vocabulary. And woo, this is being a rock star.
I'll drum us out.
Okay. So as we rock all the way out, see you in the next one. Bye.
Crop.
Crop.
Elder.
Elder.
Entitled.
Entitled.
Poster child.
Poster child.
Mundane.
Mundane.